Happy Easter, Xbox.
Howdy my total, as always, 2Wheeler Gamers, we're back with you guessed it, another video. Thanks for coming back to the channel. If you're new here, maybe stick around for a while. I got a fun video for you. Today we're going to be talking about those 10 out of 10 must-play Xbox experiences. A month or two back I talked about the 10 out of 10 Switch games, then I talked about the 10 out of 10 PS5 games. Today it's time to give Xbox some love. But for today's video, I'm not just sticking to like the Xbox One or the Series X or the 360 or even the OG. I'm actually going to be talking about all of the Xboxes. See, Xbox actually has pretty good backwards compatibility, and even on the newest Xbox you can still play several old games, and so I really thought I would talk about all of the Xbox family and just give you some 10 out of 10 games in my opinion. Now, as a reminder, a 10 out of 10 to me personally does not mean a perfect game. There is no such thing as a perfect video game. Every single game I talk about today, I could point out a flaw, a negative, a con, etc. They all have issues. Literally, there's no game without an issue. What a 10 out of 10 means to me is that I can give it my absolute highest recommendation. I think these are must-play experiences. That's a 10 out of 10 to me. So with that in mind, today we're going to be talking about 10 out of 10 games, 10, 10, 10. I'm talking about way too many 10s here. Let's just get right into it. Let me know some must-play Xbox games in your opinion, whether it's the original 360 One or the Series X. Let me know down below. I'm always lurking in the comments. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. We got the Patreon and the super thanks. Any support is truly greatly appreciated. Seriously. Thank you so much for the support. I really do love it. Let's get into it. Alright, you already know with a list like this, we gotta start out with Halo. While Halo might not be the most popular series these days, you can't deny the impact Halo has left on Xbox, and some of those older games are absolutely fantastic. Now, it would be an easy cop-out to say the Master Chief Collection, and so instead I'm going to pick one Halo game, Halo 2 Anniversary specifically. Halo 2 has like my favorite campaign of all the Halos, and it has some of the best multiplayer action that the series has ever seen. Obviously, Halo 2 made a huge splash back when it came out in 2004 and really popularized Xbox Live and helped lead to what Xbox Live and just online gaming is today. But even nowadays, Halo 2, oh, it absolutely slaps. Like, the campaign is one of the finest first-person shooter campaigns you will ever play. It has a great start, middle, and I would say end, but everything's great about the ending except the actual ending cutscene. Finish the fight, yeah, it's always going to be bullshit. But outside of that, yeah, the campaign, it really is great. You get to play as the badass Master Chief, but you also get to play as Arbiter, and Arbiter's actually pretty cool, and the level design, the enemy encounters, really all of the combat encounters, it's all the stuff of Legends. It's all very polished. The AI is really good. The AI in the older Halo games is actually pretty good. It's great here. There's a ton of excellent set pieces. Almost all of the set pieces are good. Almost every level is good. Really, the only one I don't like is the fucking Jackal snipers on the harder difficulties, but almost all of the levels are good. I like the new weapons. The gunplay's excellent. It's super satisfying. There's a great impact. It's fun. The enemy encounters feel different all the time. There's a bunch of different weapons. You can play through the entire game cooperatively. Like the campaign, it really is just a good time. And then the multiplayer really is some of the best multiplayer that the franchise has ever seen. I don't know if I'd say it's the very best. Halo 3 and Reach have excellent multiplayer as well, but you can't deny Halo 2's multiplayer. Like, to me, a little bit of an older fan, this is what Halo multiplayer is to me. It's a little bit slower than plenty of other first-person shooters, but there's a lot of strategy, knowing the weapons, knowing the maps. It's very skill-based. And don't get me wrong, Infinite has cool multiplayer. It's just very different from what Halo was, at least to me, when I was growing up. I still think Halo 2 is solid multiplayer, and then this Anniversary Edition is actually pretty awesome. You know, the original game could totally be on here too, but the Anniversary Edition, like, it looks amazing. It looks really good, especially the cutscenes, and switching between the two graphical styles will never get old. The soundtrack is also phenomenal. I love the Anniversary soundtrack. It's so good. Look, I love Halo 1, I love Halo 3, I even kind of like Halo 4, but Halo 2, it just hits different. It's my favorite one, and in my opinion, it's the best one. It is the 10 out of 10 experience that I think any Xbox player should check out. It's on the Master Chief Collection, it's on Steam, it's totally worth playing. I could just say the Master Chief Collection as a whole, but to not have a cop-out right at the beginning, I'm gonna just go with Halo 2. Okay, so from the most blatantly obvious pick to a pick maybe you didn't think of, and that is Psychonauts 2. Yeah, Psychonauts 2 is on PlayStation, but it is by Double Fine, who are owned by Microsoft now, and I actually did play this on Xbox One, and I gotta say, this really is one of my favorite Xbox games ever. First off, I will say I love the original Psychonauts. It's one of my favorite games ever. I would have it on this list, but I've actually never touched the Xbox version. I always played PS2 or PC, so I've got just the second one here, but that original game is fantastic. Psychonauts 2 is like everything I could have wanted for a sequel from the original game. It really is a direct continuation of the original game, which did actually have a cliffhanger ending. We did wait like 10 plus years to see what happened, but we do get to see what happens, and the story is just fantastic. The story of the first game was excellent, the writing, the characters, it was all great, and it really continues on here. There's not a bad character here. The world building is excellent, the story's interesting, it's different. I really love the characters, especially Raz. He's particularly likable. Really, almost the whole cast is particularly likable. Everything to do with the story is just great. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, yes, this primarily is a 3D platformer, but there's a lot more going on here than just some basic jumping. Even people who don't like platformers, I think, can still appreciate what Psychonauts 2 is doing. There's a lot more under the hood here. Sure, while it doesn't have the most in-depth platforming, there's not this massive moveset or crazy level design, the game still is really tight, excellent level design with good set pieces, and everything feels so different. There's a ton of variety, you're never doing the same thing twice, and all of the levels are vastly different from each other when it comes to the level design, themes, what you're doing, etc. You still go in people's minds, and all of these levels are crazy different from each other. I loved in the original how different every level felt, and they perfectly brought that over. Some levels are just absolutely wild, like the one with the rock concert, and there really isn't a bad level here. It's all engaging, it's all fun, it's all interesting. Exploring the overworld is fun as well. There's some side quests. It's excellently paced. It's not too long, but it's not too short either. And like I said, it keeps you engaged the entire time. I was really into this game from the moment I booted it up all the way until I finished. I really didn't want to play anything else. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was not only one of the best 3D platformers I played in a long time, but it really is just one of those 10 out of 10 experiences. The presentation's fantastic. The characters are great. The soundtrack's excellent. I really have no problem recommending this game to anyone. Like, even if you weren't really big on the first one, this one might change your mind. It's very different from what you'd expect, especially coming from Xbox Game Studios. It's quite unconventional, but I just love how different and out there it is. The original was so different and out there, and it was kind of a commercial flop. I hope this one isn't, because one day maybe we'll get Psychonauts 3. I'm not holding my breath. I'm just happy we got a second one, and it's just as good as the first one. I feel like it's pretty rare where a sequel comes out like 10, 15 years later, and it's just as good as the first one, but Psychonauts 2, it's the rare exception. It really is a great game. Alright, and so here we have an oldie but a goodie. We have Ninja Gaiden Black for the original Xbox, but it is worth mentioning you can play this game on several other Xboxes. It is backwards compatible. And for clarity's sake, I ain't talking about Sigma. I'm talking about Black. Sigma's great and all, but Ninja Gaiden Black, this game, it is the real deal. Ninja Gaiden, obviously a very notoriously difficult, rather infamous series, and yeah, there was some pretty good 2D games, but when it came to 3D with Ninja Gaiden Black, oh, it hit on a totally different level. This game was not messing around, and what we got was one of the greatest hack and slashes ever. And there have been plenty of Ninja Gaiden games after Black, but none of them have ever hit the same or as good as this game. The game basically served as a reboot for the entire franchise. They did keep our man Ryu Hayabusa here though, the super fast, deadly ninja that everyone's come to know and love, especially with the Hayabusa drop. This guy's awesome, and he takes on some really powerful foes here. When it comes to the action, it really is second to none. I'll just immediately say yes, this game is hard. This is the hardest game on the entire list. And I'm sure the difficulty might hinder some, and some people aren't going to like it because of how challenging it is, and that's fair. It is a really difficult game and it requires a lot from the player, but man, this is some of the most satisfying, intense combat you will have in any game. Every attack feels like it means something. Every encounter really does mean something, and when you defeat enemies, or better yet, when you just absolutely destroy enemies because you get hella raw at the game, oh, it is so satisfying. It is so rewarding as well. You can become so raw at this game and just tear it up. It has no problem tearing you up, but once you get good, you're really good at this game. The hack and slash combat, it is some of the best you'll find in any game. Do I think it's the very best? No, I still kind of think Devil May Cry 5 is up there, but it is still really good. and the combat really has aged phenomenally. You can still pick it up nowadays and still understand it relatively easy. It isn't that different from modern games. When it comes to the level design also, it is some of the tightest level design of the entire series. I really do like the level design and how you explore around. I like how you are a ninja. You can do ninja things, run on walls. There's plenty of platforming here, and I think the level design, it's peak Ninja Gaiden. It doesn't get any better than this when it comes to the level design in the series. The campaign is just really tight and focused. All of the missions mean something. The boss fights, while they are stupidly difficult, they're great spectacles. They're really fun to fight, and yeah, the game's gonna kick your ass. It's gonna kick your ass hard several times, and you're gonna have to redo plenty of areas and sections, but again, it is so rewarding. It is so satisfying when you're able to finally overcome those challenges. Like, this is probably one of the hardest games I've ever completed, but it's rare when a game has this many rewarding moments. Other Ninja Gaiden games are pretty good. I did like the second one, and the third one, while I know a lot of people don't like it, I kind of liked it, but none of them are even close to the first one. The combat was peak, the level design's great, the presentation was amazing for the time, the platforming, the exploration, it's all good. If you like hack and slash games, it doesn't get much better than this one. And still only on Xbox. While there was the Sigma version, Black really still is only on Xbox and should not be missed. It's pretty cheap too, so check it out. Alright, time for another obvious pick. We're going to be talking some Forza. Now, there are several Forza games I could have chosen for this list. You know, the original, Forza 4, Forza Horizon 3, 4, even the new Forza Motorsport, but I'm going with Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 is one of my favorite racing games of all time. It very well might be my favorite Forza game, that or Motorsport 4. I really do love 4. It was kind of a toss-up between those two, but for today's video, we're talking about Horizon 5. This game really looks at the previous Horizon games and are like, how do we just get the players into a really fun area and just give them as many dopamine rushes as possible? Like, it feels like this game does everything in its power to just create a fun experience. The world, the setting, the setup is literally a fun car festival that you get to race in. There are so many missions in this open world, and almost all of them have one main thing in common. They just try to create a fun set piece. A lot of these have some crazy set pieces. Some of them are just the basic races, but you'll go through these environments that are not only stunning and beautiful. Seriously, this is an amazing looking game, and the cars look amazing. The environments are really good, but really they just try to create a fun, engaging race. Sure, the racing mechanics aren't the most deep. The car customization is nowhere near as deep as plenty of other games, and the racing itself leans more on the arcadey side versus the realistic side. I totally get that. I'm always going to be an arcade racer. I mean, I love The Sims too. And I ain't talking about the EA games, I'm talking about the simulation games as well, but I really love the driving in this game. The driving feels really great. A lot of the cars feel different from each other. Actually, like almost every car feels different. You can really feel differences when you upgrade the cars. And I think for the most part, the events, the missions, the objectives are spectacular. Like, there's a lot of memorable ones here. I really do enjoy almost all of the set pieces. A lot of them feel different from each other. There's callbacks to plenty of other Forza games. And I just love that the game lets you go absolutely wild. And the game even encourages it. The game does have the combo system from the other games, and it's just as great here. And then it feels like the game is constantly rewarding you. It's constantly giving you the roulette wheel. It's constantly giving you new upgrades and vehicles. Seriously, there are so many cars in this game. I can't think of many games with this many cars. It's pretty impressive. And then to top it all off, the game actually is pretty stellar multiplayer as well. The multiplayer has really been good in the last few Horizon games, but 5's is really good. Oh, and the soundtrack. The soundtrack of all of them are great, but the soundtrack in 5 is also really good. Man, I really love this game. I put a lot of time into this one, and it was just a blast through and through. Sure, it does have plenty of shitty microtransactions and DLCs and season passes and all that live service bullshit, but I really do think you still have a fantastic driving game here that I can recommend to people who don't even like driving games. I think you'll find something to enjoy here. Oh, you thought Ninja Gaiden was the only difficult game on this list? You're wrong. Here we have Super Meat Boy, the Xbox Live Arcade indie sensation that I very much remember taking over the entire Xbox Live Arcade world. Like, this game was huge when it came to XBLA games, and all these years later, it's very easy to see why. Like, I'd argue that this very well might be the greatest Xbox Live Arcade game of all time. This and like Trials Evolution and Castle Crashers, ooh, all really good ones, but my favorite of those has got to be Super Meat Boy. Like, when I got my 360, this legit was one of the first games I got for for it, and I've played through the game several times since then. So if you're not too familiar with Super Meat Boy, or you weren't really around when Xbox Live Arcade was a thing, this is a very difficult 2D platformer that stars our main man, or shall I say our main meat boy, who's just trying to save his girlfriend Bandage Girl from this evil character known as Dr. Fetus, and he'll have to go through a bunch of levels to try and get to her. Along the way there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of traps trying to stop you, and you'll have to replay these levels over and over and over because you will die. But what's great is Super Meat Boy not only reloads basically instantly when you die, but none of these levels are all that long, so if you've got to redo it, it's not the end of the world. And when you beat a level, you'll actually get to see all of the times you attempted the level in real time, and it's actually very cool. What makes Super Meat Boy different from any other 2D platformer is the control, the physics, and the feel. Meat Boy himself can really only jump and run, but he is really, and I mean really, slidey, and the game absolutely takes advantage of that. You slide up walls, you slide all over. There is no other character that feels like Meat Boy, and I really enjoy the physics of this game. It feels really fair and tight. It's really easy to pick up and understand, but mastering the controls, mastering the physics, oh, it is not easy. Super Meat Boy is a pretty difficult game, especially towards the end of it, but I wouldn't say it's like brutally difficult. It's very much a skill-based game that requires a lot from the player, but what's great again is that the levels aren't too long. It's just a short burst of energy you gotta give, and you know, if you fail, you try over and over and over, you'll probably slowly get better and better and better, and finally you'll beat the level. It's a very challenging but rewarding experience, and it really just cuts out all the fluff in between. Everything is about the platforming challenges, everything is about learning these levels, mastering Meat Boy's controls, and just getting to the end. There's a bunch of bonus levels and challenges, and the game is crazy replayable. The presentation is pretty indie for sure, but I really do enjoy it. The music is fantastic, and all these years later, it really is like one of my favorite 2D platformers just ever. I have no problem recommending it to everybody, even the people who don't really like platformers or don't really like super challenging games. I think this one might change your mind because you get to replay and retry levels instantly. It's super low stakes in that sense, and you will get better. You will master the controls, and I really just can't imagine somebody looking at Meat Boy, at least the character, and going, yeah, I don't like that. I mean, maybe the vegetarians and the vegans, but you don't have to eat him. You just gotta play his game. How we never got a proper sequel for this game, I will never understand, but I absolutely recommend the original Super Meat Boy, whether it's the original Xbox Live Arcade version or one of the many re-releases. They're all great. And so here we have a game that doesn't really need much of an introduction, and that is The Witcher 3. And I know what you're saying, The Witcher 3 is on plenty of other consoles. Why are you even including it here? And that's because the first time I ever played The Witcher 3 was actually on Xbox One. Eventually I did play it on PC, and that's what all this footage is from, but the first time I played through this game, it was on Xbox One, and I very much can vouch for this game on Xbox One. I really didn't have any issues with it. When it comes to The Witcher 3 itself, I've talked about this game plenty of times. Basically, everybody who likes this game has talked about this game at some point. It is one of those unforgettable, amazing 10 out of 10 experiences that I can recommend to literally any type of gamer. Starring our man Jerry of the River, it really is about him just trying to reconnect basically with his pseudo-daughter, Ciri, and along the way, plenty of different shenanigans go on. The story, you know, it's not this big world-altering event, but I very much like it. I like that it's a little bit more low-key, it's a lot more personal, and there's plenty of things from the first two Witcher games that were mentioned heavily that actually show up here, like the Wild Hunt, which I always thought was really cool. When it comes to what I love about The Witcher 3 the most, it's definitely the quests. I really love the quests in this game. There is not a bad quest here, whether it's the main ones, the side ones, the hunts. It's all really great stuff. They're all memorable, interesting, engaging. They all try to do something different. There's no menial junk here. They really went all out for all of the quests in this game. The open world is pretty good itself. It's dense. It's got a lot to see, but man, those quests really are the highlight. All of the hunts are really great. I like the strategy that you use for the hunts. I like actually hunting down the creatures, and I even like the combat. I know the combat isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I really do enjoy the combat. The presentation's fantastic, the music's excellent, the voice acting's great. There's two fantastic DLCs for this game. The game is absolutely the complete package. If you like RPGs, if you like fantasy games, no, I'm gonna just drop all that. If you like video games at all and you haven't tried The Witcher 3, I really recommend you try The Witcher 3. Like, everybody talks a lot of good shit about this game for a reason. It is just excellent. And whether you're playing on Xbox, PC, PS4, PS5, Switch, whatever the hell you're playing on, doesn't matter. The Witcher 3 is just kind of goated. Alright, so a list like this, you know we gotta include some Gears of War. Now, I legit love every single Gears of War game outside of Judgment, but when it came to picking a specific game for this list, oh, it wasn't even close. In my opinion, it is Gears of War 3. Gears of War 3, in my opinion, is the complete package when it comes to Gears of War. Like, Gears 1 has a fantastic atmosphere and campaign, Gears 2's got some good moments, but Gears 3, man, oh, Gears 3 is a great campaign, excellent pacing, like the best multiplayer, horde mode, and then the game even has several other game modes to it that are really fun. I really do enjoy Gears of War 3. This is the Gears of War that I played the most. This is the one that I put a ton of time into, so maybe there's that bias, but I really got into this game, and it really is one of the best third-person shooters of all time. With the story really about Marcus and all of his squad going up against the Locusts in one big final stand. The campaign is epic, it's bombastic, it has some of the very best set pieces of the entire franchise. It's actually got a pretty good length to it. The pacing is really well done. They're constantly keeping things interesting. You're doing new things, you're in a vehicle, you're in a different environment. The shooting is top notch. Really, the combat in general is top notch. I really love the stop and pop gameplay of Gears of War, and this one, it just has it the best in my opinion. Gears 3, man, it just hit different when it came to that combat. The weapon selection is fantastic. All of the weapons feel great. The shooting is great. The reloading mechanic is great. Waiting behind a wall for 5 minutes until somebody runs at you and then you hit him with the chainsaw. Oh, it's never gonna get old. The multiplayer was so much fun. I have had just a ton of hours of fun with it. There are still people playing Gears 3 multiplayer even nowadays because it really is that good, with really like the best maps the series has ever seen. And the other game modes were also incredibly fun with beast mode and horde mode. Like, the horde mode is so good. It's like the best horde mode, low-key, like ever. Certainly the best in the Gears of War series, in my opinion. Gears 2's was really good also, but Gears 3, oh, it was so good. The maps were great. The amount of enemies that showed up, man, I really love all the game modes here. The presentation for the time was also really great. There's an epic soundtrack. And speaking of epic, they really left this series with a bang. They did a fantastic job with this third game, and I don't think any Gears game has been anywhere near as good as Gears 3 after, and I really hope that in the future Gears 3, or really Gears of War in general, can get some kind of Master Chief collection. I think that would be incredibly beneficial for the community, and people would come back and see why so many people like Gears to begin with, because I'll be honest, Gears has been pretty quiet the last 5 or so years. Like, Gears 5 is good, but it's not Gears of War 1, 2, and 3 good, if you know what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, all I'll say is you will not find a third-person shooter that is much better than Gears of War 3. Like, it really is just a fantastic shooter, and even if you don't like shooters, this might be the one to change you. Just ignore all the big buff dudes and the testosterone Chad energy, and you'll find a really exceptional shooter with some of the most satisfying combat of any video game, and you'll very easily be able to see why so many people went nuts for Gears back in the day. I'm telling you, a Master Chief collection like style game would be perfect for Gears. Then people would see why Gears 3 is so good. That's all I'm saying. Check it out. Alright, so here's a game you might not expect. Burnout Revenge for the 360. Yes, Burnout Revenge is on the PS2 and the original Xbox, but the 360 version is always the version I've stuck with and is the best version in my opinion. Now, the Burnout series, ooh, it might be like the best series of driving games ever. Like, all of these games outside of the original are fantastic, and then it ended before it went to shit. But Burnout Revenge is like the best of the best. This is like the craziest driving game you will ever play, where you go at blisteringly fast speeds. It's honestly kind of white knuckle, and you will just smash the shit out of the other cars. Like, you will just totally wreck the shit out of everyone else. There's even traffic checks where you can launch other cars, like just pedestrian cars, into the other racers, like it's a car combat game or something. And then on top of that, the game feels really great. Like, the boosting, the drifting, the driving in general, it just feels phenomenal. The courses you'll get to drive on, they're all great. There's not a bad one here. But there's more to this game than just a bunch of races. A lot of it is racing, and the racing is excellent, but this game also has crash mode from the other Burnout games where you have to try to cause as much destruction as possible, and it's low-key like a puzzle game. And this is awesome. You have some really awesome levels. You get to cause some serious havoc and chaos, and it's really fun. It is some of the best levels of any crash mode. I know some people don't love the crash mode in this game thanks to like the wind, but I really enjoy the crash mode. I think the scenarios they put you in are great. And then to top it all off, you have basically a perfect frame rate, a fantastic presentation with that real mid-2000s Instagram filter smear. Like, yeah, this game, it gets blurry as shit and it looks like Vaseline's all over the screen, but I love the presentation. I love the aesthetics. The soundtrack is really, really good. Maybe the best best of the entire Burnout series. I love like all the music, and it really matches the high octane energy that this series has. Like, you just go so fast in this game. You're just whipping around corners, just smashing other cars, taking them out, winning races, then blowing shit up in the crash mode. Like, yeah, it's pretty mindless, I guess, but it is so much fun. I can come back to this game really at any time and have an absolute blast with it. Like, if you like driving games, it's a must play. If you like arcade racers, it's a must play. If you like video games, it really is a must play. The traffic checks, the destruction, and blisteringly fast speeds that you go at just make it such an enjoyable game. It is one of the greatest racing games of all time, easily, and the best version is on the Xbox 360. And I really have zero problem recommending this game to everyone. Alright, and so here we got a bit of a newer game. We got HiFi Rush. Yes, HiFi Rush is on PlayStation now, but it started as an Xbox exclusive, and in my opinion was one of the killer apps for the Xbox, honestly, because HiFi Rush is a great game. And while I love The Evil Within 1 and 2, this game is Tango's best, in my opinion. It's totally different from everything else they made, but they really created a superb hack and slash character action adventure rhythm game thing, hybrid, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Just experience that really was a joy to play from start to finish. You'll probably first notice the art style, which looks fantastic. I really love the cell shading and how just alive everything is. The animation's superb, and obviously with it being a rhythm game, the music, yeah, it's gonna slap. It's gonna be really good. The music's actually pretty amazing here, and it's actually very integral to the game in general as you play the entire game to the beat of the song. Whether it's in the combat or you're just maneuvering around, the whole world reacts to the beat of every song, and it's just an amazing effect, and legit, I've never seen this in another game. There's been other rhythm games that aren't just rhythm games, but none of them have a world that is as alive as this with the beat and the combat that is so in tune with the music. And speaking of the combat, in my opinion, is actually really great. It's some of the best hack and slash combat in quite some time. Sure, it doesn't have the depth or complexity of, say, Devil May Cry 5 or even Ninja Gaiden, but it has you really trying to connect every attack, every move you do to the beat of the song, and you get rewarded if you do that. You'll do better, you'll do more damage, you'll do better combos. Everything really incentivizes you to try to stay to that beat, and even if you have like no rhythm at all, you'll be able to get a flow of things. I myself have very little to no rhythm. I can't play a musical instrument to save my life, but the game was actually very accommodating, and even after like an hour or two, I really got the hang of things, and I was playing to the beat for every combat scenario, and the combat became a lot of fun. Sure, at first, yeah, I wasn't really getting it all that much, but really, after I gave it just even an hour or two, everything clicked, everything came together, and I finished this game in like a weekend because it was a ton of fun. The game has a pretty good story about our man Chai, who's actually incredibly likable. In fact, all of the characters are incredibly likable about them going up against this evil corporation, and it takes some interesting twists and turns. The combat's good, the level design is actually pretty good, all of the environments are incredibly varied and feel different from each other. The game has a decent sense of exploration, and the game will constantly reward you for going off the beaten path, and so you end up taking longer. And the thing is though, while you take longer, it's much more enjoyable to explore every nook and cranny, and I think the pacing in general is just really good in this game. And the game has a really solid length to it, not taking too long, but it's not too short either, anywhere from around like 7 to 10, maybe 11 hours. There's plenty of replayability here though. They've been adding more stuff over time, and yeah, it's just a phenomenal experience. It was one of my favorite games of last year, easy. And when I think of best games for the Xbox Series X and S, oh, this is like the top game. And now that's on PlayStation, y'all got no excuse unless you're a Switch player. Hopefully it comes to the Switch too, because everybody should be trying this game. Alright, and so our last game for today is a personal favorite, and that is Jet Set Radio Future for the original Xbox. All of these years later, this game is still an original Xbox exclusive, but it is backwards compatible. And you know what, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and throw Bomb Rush Cyberpunk in there if you can't play this. It is a very similar game that is just as, if not better than this game. Jet Set Radio Future has been one of my favorite games for the last 10-15 years at this point. I played it on the Xbox, and it's one of the best experiences I've had with legit any Xbox game. The game is an extreme sports game slash platformer where you play as a graffiti artist tagging up the streets of Tokyo and taking on rival gangs, taking over their turf. But it's not just them you gotta worry about. Law enforcement is not fucking around in this world. Even though you're just doing graffiti, they will send tanks and choppers after you, which will honestly never not be funny. But yeah, plenty of people are trying to stop you from just doing your graffiti. Now what makes Jet Set Radio Future so good all these years later is a few things actually. First off, the style, the presentation, the atmosphere atmosphere, the attitude, it's all really great. The presentation is honestly timeless. It still looks great, and I just love the vibes this game has. The soundtrack, one of the best of any video game. I've been listening to it non-stop for 10 plus years now. Like, it's really great, but there's more to it than just the presentation and the attitude. The gameplay is actually pretty good. When it comes to being an extreme sports game, sure, it's not the most in-depth and it is really basic with like its trick system, but it still controls and handles really great. The physics are solid enough, but the platforming, the platforming is actually quite good in this game. It feels really nice, grinding's fun, and tagging shit up is pretty good. The level design is actually really great. It is some of the best level design you'll find in any extreme sports game. There's plenty of ramps and cool spots to do tricks off of, but there's some real level design here. It's a solid 3D platformer as well. And there's plenty of other varied objectives that show up here, like racing the other turfs or, you know, getting into fights with them. And I'll be real, the combat, it has aged. It's not exactly great nowadays, but it's most definitely not the focal point, and I'm able to look past it. But if you're not, then I really recommend Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which basically takes everything from Jet Set Radio and kind of improves it, brings it into the modern era with better combat and a more in-depth trick system. The music is also fantastic, the presentation's great, the level design's excellent. You really can't go wrong with either of these games, and both of them are available on Xbox, and both are great games. While I'm sure there will be some people scratching their head going, you'd really give this a 10 out of 10, my answer is, it's my list. I would give it a 10 out of 10, which again, as I've said a few times now, means it gets my highest recommendation. I'd recommend this game to everybody. You might not even realize you'd like a style of game like this until you play this game. It's just so fun. Like, at the end of the day, that's all I need, is a really fun game. Sure, it doesn't have the most deep story, the most rewarding gameplay mechanics, but man, I had a good ass time playing both of these, and sometimes that really is all you need. But that's it for today's video. These were 10, I guess technically 11 games that I thought I'd talk about. I do very much recommend all of these games. They're all available on Xbox and are totally worth playing. Let me know down below what some Xbox games you'd include are. Let me know if I'm missing some games or think I should have included this or that or shouldn't have included some. You know what, you're going to comment where you're going to comment. But if you made it to this part of the video, you should comment cement, as in what's in the ground and buildings. That means you made it to the end of the video. You will get a heart from me and a little bit of love. So with all that, hope you all have a fantastic night, day, whatever it is you want to do. Have a good one. Bye-bye.